Hello and welcome, everyone. So, welcome to this session today. And today, of course, we are back again with one of the art therapy workshops that we do. And if you have been watching Manavotsav, you know that we have been doing this ever since 2020. Now, this has come back time and again, but one of the main things that we have found in coffee painting is that the amount of interest that people has. Now, coffee painting, of course, is a relatively niche and artistic hobby, I would say. And while there is no body of research on the benefits of art therapy and creative expression for mental health, coffee painting as a distinct topic might not have been extensively studied. However, and we are very mindful of that fact. However, you can find research on the broader subjects of art therapy, and that's where we want to link up with the coffee painting, whether that be the aroma, whether that be the texture when you're making it, or the beans, however way you can visualize it. Now, there are findings that indicate that cafes and coffee shops can provide psychological benefits, like the urban parks, or even going in and meeting friends in a coffee shop. There are numerous studies that have demonstrated associations between higher levels of coffee intake and a lower risk of suicide and depression. So you can find all of those articles, and we are going to send you the links here as well. So I'm going to post that in a minute as well. I also interestingly found a very recent study actually by Harvard School of Public Health, where they were talking about that coffee is an integrate mixture of more than 1,000 chemicals, and although there are not many research done, there are few things that they kind of proposed in their article that they wanted researchers to play with to kind of look at a little bit deeper. They found connections, and this is the one that I've been talking about, by the Harvard Public School, basically. School of Health. And one of the findings, of course, one of the sections in that report talks about depression and how coffee plays a critical role in that. So, if you're interested, of course, I'm going to share you that link. But if you have been practicing coffee art, or you know someone who has benefited from it, please do comment and please do share it with us. But we would like your feedback as well, how you are feeling throughout this. Now, in order to get that on board, but of course, we have got someone very special who is a multimedia artist. So it's not that she has experimented with many different mediums. And of course, she has not left only to the physical ones. And she has started now experimenting with graphic arts and graphic design and that kind of thing. So without any delay, let me welcome Sudakshina Ghosh.
Hello,
Hello, how are you?
Indrali. I'm fine, thank you. So nice to be with you again and on this
Thank you.
platform of Manav Utshab and participating in this conversation. It
Yeah,
has been one whole year in between, but
I
this is
know.
our third meeting about coffee painting. Yeah.
Yes, and every time you have got something new, of course, you carry on and, you've got that story to say to our audience today as well. But it's lovely to have you. And
Thank you.
your coffee workshops have been very well received by the audience. So people do come back to it. And it's only not just on the day, but actually people revisit it. I know some people who have practiced with it as well, but it's hard to kind of get the texture. Sometimes what they were saying is that they've not been mixing it properly, so it was becoming lighter and all of that. So maybe
Yeah.
when you are talking today, you can give a little bit more kind of tips to them how they can mix it
Yes.
in a better way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So shall we start by looking at one of your work that we can also see in
Yes.
your background there?
Yes. This is
Fantastic.
this work here was done for my daughter's wedding. I gave it to her for her wedding. And because Durga Puja is round the corner, I thought of using this work to introduce our session. And this work is my concept of Durga. On the left, you can see the whole world with all everything that there is in the world. And behind the woman figure here is all kinds of complications that we face in world. While Ganesha is sleeping on her lap, so comfortably without any stress. So I think our whole idea of Durga comes as a stress reliever. We pray to Durga for giving us the strength to overcome our difficulties in life. And here I have used only coffee. Whatever you see white in this picture is the white of the paper, and the rest is only coffee and no other color used here. So you can see multiple shades of coffee or sepia tone on this work, and I will explain later how I get those different shades from coffee. Thank you, Indrani.
Thank you. This is wonderful. And what a great start to the event today. And I think, before we go into the coffee and all the details, I would like to know a little bit about you and your journey. So, if you can start by giving us a little bit of where you started to find, art within you, or when you started to practice it in different forms. If you give us a little bit of a background on that.
Okay. So, from my childhood, I've been encouraged to explore and experiment with different kinds of medium. So maybe it was clay from the garden, or following my mother with the alpona work, or those two I remember most, which influenced me. And when I saw my mother and my aunts doing alpona on the floor or dressing a bride, all that had an influence. And later on, when I was on my own as a child, I would play with them as models and practice those kind of things myself. And that was a real source of pleasure for me. And I thought that art, I did not do particularly to do art, but it was a kind of play for me. And say, when I started doing alpona later on, gradually that became kind of a profession for me to do during weddings. And also bridal makeup I did as a profession. And later on I shifted to digital art, which I learned myself. So uh, this tendency to explore and experiment was always there in me, and maybe my science background helped to develop it further. So I would request you to show some of my alpona works now. These works were done very recently. You will see 4 different designs of alpona here, which I used for a wedding in London. I thought how I could put this alpona on the floor, on the stairs outside the house, so that it is not spoiled by the rain in London. So I made it on transparencies,
Yeah.
and I put them with double sided tape on the steps. So
And
maybe
then you
Indrani
have
can
got
show you.
different,
Yeah,
yeah.
there
So
were
I'm guessing that,
4 different types of designs, which
yeah.
I did with acrylic on transparency, and then we stuck it on the entrance of the house with double sided glue. This made it durable during the rain, which was part of the ceremony. It rained almost every day. So I thought
Yes, and
that.
London
Here
weather
again,
is like
yeah. Here again,
incredible.
I think it was my uh, way of exploring and experimenting which led to this idea.
Yeah, and then there are other bits of the thing that I wanted to show is like how it actually looked on the steps that you showed to
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
So it's kind of it's coming through.
yes. So this is how it looked when it was pasted on the ground, because the transparency helped only the Alpona design to stand out. And being
It's a
done with
beautiful.
acrylic, it was there was no concern about getting spoiled by the rain.
No, no,
And
that's amazing.
yeah, once I had to give a talk about Alpona when I was in Chennai. So maybe you can show, and this is also the other design. Yeah, this is the
This is how the
fourth one.
design.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
fourth one. Yeah,
And then you had this one, which was
this is something I did on the floor for talk about Alpona. Now I need to explain here a little bit about Alpona for people who do not know about Alpona. This is one of our traditions, especially I think in Bengal, where we do these designs on the floor for any ceremony like wedding or mainly for wedding and puja, all kinds of puja. We do it, or the religious ceremonies. We do it on the floor. And this was further developed by Nandulal Bosch in Shantiniketan, and it got a different style from the original alpona that was done by the village women. Now, this I find as a very interesting form of art where it is not permanent. You do it for the pleasure of doing it, and next day you will be wiping it off. And the whole village women came together to do this kind of craft, which formed a kind of teamwork for the village people. And I think that is a great way to boost mental health by working together, doing something which is not going to last, just for the pleasure, just for the journey, and to see the end result and appreciate it themselves.
this is
So,
amazing. Yeah. And it's
so
how
you can
people
get,
also interact and they kind of build
yeah,
relation as well,
yeah,
isn't it? It's
yeah.
very
You can
nice.
show the, yeah, this is the final form. And here I have used what we normally use is a kind of clay, which I didn't have with me in Chennai. So what I used is rice flour, which also is used for alpona, and it is done totally by hand. No brush has been used here. It is done with the finger and taking a small piece of cloth and dipping it into that liquid containing the rice flour and then putting it on the floor. Now, there I wanted to do it more natural with natural materials. So, whatever you see here as yellow was done with turmeric, the dark part was done with coffee, and the rest was done with rice flour paste. So thank you,
That's a very
Indrani.
unique idea of using coffee in the Alpona, yes.
Yeah. So, and
And then you
the
did
main
some
thing,
bridal
yeah,
work as well, isn't it?
this was also my profession at one time, doing bridal makeup, and this is similar designs what you use for Alpona, but here you use a brush to do it, and this is also there to show a close up of the final work done.
Yeah. And then, of course, from there, you moved on to something very new,
Yes.
which
This
is,
is
yes,
something again my nature to explore and experiment made me learn digital art all by myself. And this was something my friend Swapna Mirashi from Singapore. She told me, she asked me whether I could do some illustration for a book she was going to write for children. Now, that time I was in Chennai, she was in Singapore. So, the best way to do it was digitally so that she could give her suggestions whenever required. So, I started doing it using something like GIMP, which is a free digital tool. And this story is also very interesting. It is about a seagull brother and a seagull sister. The brother goes on looking for things on the beach and finally makes a pile like that and gets almost crushed by it. Then the sister comes for to his rescue and tells him that this is not what we need in life. We need fish. Come, let's go fishing. What have you been collecting whole life? This is of no use. This is so she through this book, Swapna has been able to convey the difference between need and want. This book is available on Amazon, so whoever would like to see the entire book, it is there. And it, in
Absolutely.
fact, it is also, you can download it into, I can't remember the name of that.
The Kindle, yeah, people can
Kindle.
download on the
Yeah,
Kindle as
Kindle.
well.
Yes,
Yes,
yes, yes, yes.
that's wonderful. Yeah, and the
So
story
here,
itself is so nice, isn't it? I mean, that's one of the thing that, of course, I mean, nowadays we discuss about like what is it that you want, and what
yeah,
is it actually you need, and going back to that human basics and needs.
yes.
So yeah, that's amazing.
So these are some of my art learned through experimenting and playing with art, I would say. It is basically learning to play, which is natural in every child. So I think as parents, as teachers, children should be allowed to do what they want to do through play.
And explore more, you
Yes,
know.
yes.
Of course,
And
these
we,
days,
mm,
it's lots of time spent on digital devices, and
yes, yes. That is what makes me feel that they have missed out so much on the innocence of childhood, where you play with something so simple and get pleasure out of it. The
yeah,
whole,
yeah,
but it has its plus and minus.
yes, that's true. Yeah. So we move on from that one to then looking at the coffee art. So maybe I start with this one. So
Yeah.
this is very much detailed, and and it's amazing to see the amount of details in it, different shades. And so how
Yes.
do you do, and how long does it normally take to kind of do this work?
It doesn't take that long for me, but
Yes.
I generally would start with a very light shade. It is, I make the coffee myself, which again I feel is to protect the environment. I
Mm.
use the spent coffee grounds and I take out I extract the coffee again from it by boiling it with water and then using a cloth as a sieve and taking out the filtrate, which I boil at very low temperature, or you can say just evaporate at a low temperature to get a kind of paste that becomes like any poster color. And
Mm.
then I dilute it with water to get whatever shade I want. So here the lightest shade that you can see in this painting were the first few strokes that I did. Then slowly, as it dries, I put another layer and develop it into darker shades. And whatever is white here is the paper itself. And when I want very dark shade, I can use the thick paste I can use. Now this is how I do it. But you can always, I've done that also. You can always use Nescafe coffee, mix it with water, and then again make it into a paste by heating it at very low heat and then use that like the paint. So you can actually dilute it with water to whatever strength you want, whatever shade you want, and use the thicker one to give it darker shades.
This is
If you look at
amazing.
the leaves here,
Hmm.
I have used a technique called lifting, which is also done for watercolor, where I generally would do the whole leaf first with the coffee, and then with a brush and just water, I will do whatever part I want to take out the coffee and press the kitchen towel on it, which absorbs the coffee, and you get those white parts of the leaf are all done by lifting. You will see the demonstration later on, and there you can see how that is done.
Yeah, so this is, of course, I mean, this is more flower, more one subject focused, but then you move on to this one,
Yes.
which is amazing and very different, but it also historically links to a place, I would say, because this is something that's, if somebody knows about Kolkata and, you
Mm.
know, they look at it and they will think, well, okay, so maybe she was thinking about Kumatali or some places like that, or maybe
No,
just before the no.
most of my paintings have some background. Now this one, where I go for singing lessons from my friend Pramita Malik, who is one of the daughters-in-law in Malik Bari. And Malik Bari in Kolkata is very famous for its Durga Puja. This is when it was being made. The Durga idol was being made by the artist. And I wanted to put that into my work. And now that Durga Puja is around the corner, I think this is quite relevant for today's talk. Here again, you can see I have made some special uh, kind of effect of texture in the background.
Yeah, it's
That
very
can,
different.
yeah, that can be done after you have done the background, whatever shades you want to put in the background. You take fresh coffee into a brush and then do the background by making those designs on the background.
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, looking at this picture and the background that you said, of course, I'm just thinking. So, do you capture it in your mind, or do you take a picture of it and then kind of revisit that and then you draw it, or how does it work?
I think it's all spontaneous.
Oh, spontaneous.
And I really don't know from where it comes. Perhaps that's something we're going to discuss today. Today, there is a lot of discussion about AI generated art. So, this is something I always felt that we unconsciously gather so much information, so much data in our brains, which surfaces when we are doing something else like this. When you are asking me whether I've planned it, no, I don't plan it. It comes out naturally. And then I wonder, how does it come out naturally? So maybe it is stored somewhere in my brain, which comes out naturally when I'm doing the work without conscious effort.
That's wonderfully said. Yes, I mean, that's the brilliance of brain. We just don't know how powerful our brains are, and of
Yeah.
course, we are feeling threatened by AI and all of that. But I will
Yes.
hold that discussion till the end.
Yeah.
I'll come to your next painting there, which is
Okay.
again,
This is a very, very special one, I think, straight from my heart, because this I made for my friend Pramita Malik's 70th birthday, who is a very well-known singer in Kolkata for and now known around the world for her Rabindra Sangeet presentation. And she and I, we became friends through Tagore's music, dance performances, which we did together as a group. She used to sing, I used to dance. So I thought that I should do something like this for her birthday. So, because it is
beautiful.
Tagore who connected us, and we are still connected because of Tagore. And what we are discussing today, Tagore had so much contribution through his works towards mental health. Every time I think you sing a song, Tagore's song, you feel so good after singing it. Even when you are totally depressed with something, you listen to a song or you sing a song that makes you feel good.
Yes, that's very true. And I can see here you have also combined the Alpona a little bit in
Yes,
the background, isn't it? And it makes it so nice. And I think it gives that sense of Shantiniketan and the
yes,
surroundings and the kind of practices. Even they do that during Holi festival. You still
yeah.
see those kind of massive alponas on the ground, and this is
And
amazing.
because Promita grew up in Shantiniketan, she
Mm,
has that Shantiniketan background. So I thought of doing this for her.
this is amazing. And then, of course, we have got the. So, shall we? I mean, now that we have looked into some of your work and discussed a little bit, shall I start? We start doing some workshop, like
Yes,
actually how to do the painting, so people can.
yes.
If you, those of you are watching there, if you want, if you've got some coffee grounds or anything, quickly you can boil it up and. Maybe if you have got any kind of brush, I mean, I would say that will work, just to begin with, just to get that feel of it, as she takes us through her journey and through the workshop.
And
Okay,
this will be
so
on YouTube. So anyone who wants to do it later also can follow the instructions that I give in that demonstration and try it themselves.
exactly, so if anybody wants, they can. Yeah. Okay, so um, I'll start that one.
I think it has gone forward. I think you have to start from the beginning. This is far ahead of where it begins. Yeah, this bunch of mushrooms was for cooking, and I liked it so much. I thought of doing artwork with these mushrooms. So, this is the beginning of the work, and this is the final result which I had. So, I will show only a little bit now how to do this kind of work. You can see in that those two containers, one has the thick coffee, and the other one I've diluted a bit with water, which I'm using right now. So this is doing the outlines with a thin brush. I did a very light sketch on which I'm doing it. Maybe I don't know whether you can see it. Thank you. Now here you can see after the first layer, I'm putting another layer to make it darker. And then I take plain water with the brush and spread the darker layer. This is just with water. Now here I am showing how with water you can create different shades by spreading just with water. Here see It is much darker. This is a thicker paint I'm using here. And as it spreads, this is wet into wet in the language of watercolors. And as it spreads into the wet surface, I can draw lines without using any more of the paint, just from what is there. And because it is wet, it has a different effect altogether. And that gives the ribs of the oyster mushroom. It's still spreading into the water, and you can add more water to make it get the texture you want to get. The same technique has been followed here. Wherever you need a darker shade, you can put the darker medium, and then you can spread it with water to get the lighter shade. That is one way of getting the tonal shades from dark to light, and the other one is from light to dark. Like just now, when it has dried, the first layer has dried, I'm putting the next layer to get the darker shade. I'm sure different artists will do it differently. It is just a medium that we are using here, which is coffee. And while I'm doing this work, what I like most is the aroma. And another thing that gives me satisfaction is that this is environment friendly. Totally, I can call it, though it is brown in color, I can call it a green medium. And once I make this, it stays for months. So I can use it whenever I wish to use it. This is actually wash. It is spreading the coffee with water. And the paper I have used is very common paper, which is it is called Canson watercolor paper, and it is 140 pound, 300 gram. This I think is very good for making for doing art with coffee. There, I talked about lifting. This is called lifting. To get the ribs under the mushroom, this is how you can get the effect of ribs under the mushroom. I hope you can see it. It's just water and the brush. After it has dried, one has to do it after the paint has dried completely. If it is not completely dry, you won't get the proper effect. There. Now you can see how the lifting has worked over here. And then I'm blending it with the rest of the work. You can go on experimenting till you get the result you want to get. Only thing, if it gets spoiled, if the paper gets affected, because sometimes it can spoil the paper, then you can do nothing about it. So there you need to think a little bit before you actually do what you want. I thought I should add some more dark color there to give it the three-dimensional effect. And you must see that nothing is very prominent here. It is just the overall effect that I wanted. Here you can see I've used the darker shade, and then as I spread it, I get the lighter shade. Wherever you need to touch up a little bit, you can do that.
And this is amazing.
Thank you, Indrani.
This is
I
really
hope,
good. The shades, and yeah, it's quite prominent. And
yeah, I hope people will be encouraged to try it, because this is very cheap as a medium, and all you need is the coffee, water, brushes, and a paper. That's all.
this is sustainable, as you said, that it's a
Yeah,
green medium. And to be
yeah,
honest, like, because with acrylic paints, there have been discussions around how plastic, of course, acrylic paint has got a huge
yeah,
amount of plastics in it. And
yeah.
so I think this is the sustainable way of painting in the
Yes.
future and thinking about it. But I don't know, like maybe mixing it with the food colors, maybe in future, maybe you can, I don't know if you've thought about experimenting with it. But
Somehow I'm so happy using only coffee that I don't feel like using
you
any
don't have
other
to.
color. And what I feel is what we see around us with our eyes, everything is color.
Hmm.
Our eyes see only color everywhere. We don't see anything in black and white
No.
or in sepia tone. So I have to use my imagination when I'm creating that work of art. to make it look like something which we can't see with our natural eyes. It is different from that.
Very different, and color will
Very
absolutely
different.
spoil it. That's why I was thinking, visualizing it, the mushroom. I mean, of course, I mean, you can add color, you can make it really colorful, and with,
Yeah,
the bobby prints, the no
yeah,
the kind of mushrooms that you see on book covers and stuff, but this one is so special to look at.
yeah.
And if anybody wants to create this piece of work, it goes perfectly well as a background in your living room or wherever you are. If you're painting it and
Yes.
keeping it, it's amazing. It's going to add that.
Yes,
Um,
because I still feel the black and white photographs, for instance, had so much depth. So I get similar result when I do it with this sepia tone. It is
yeah,
basically light and shade, play with light and shade.
light and shade. Yeah, this is really nice. And there we have got a comment from Sangit Foundation, Jayantala there saying,
Yeah.
thank you, Sudakshinadi, and thank you very much to Sangit Foundation because, of course, I mean, we only got in touch with you because of Sangit Foundation and their amazing work. And of course,
Yeah.
that's the connection and that's how we carried it on. And we are going to move forward, maybe years to come as well. So doing the experimenting with the art and digital medium and kind of look at
Yes.
it. So this is really good. And then as you see that there are comments coming in,
Yeah.
if you see on the screen.
I'm happy that people
So,
are watching. Yeah.
yes, so we have got people there.
Yeah.
And of course they would like to try it in their own
Yes.
time. The best thing about the digital platform is, like, many people are saying, okay, we are out of COVID, and do we still need to do the workshops like this? The thing is that, again, this is a sustainable way of doing things, because people can learn even in 4 years time. It will still be there for people to
Yes.
kind of go and learn from the
Yeah.
work that you have produced, isn't
Yeah.
it? So it stays
Yes.
there. That's the best
Yeah.
thing.
So if people watch the earlier YouTube videos for the earlier sessions done with you, every session has one demonstration done by me. So people can easily look at those demonstrations and try to follow that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
So I think I would like to shift to a very different discussion now, because I mean, because this is so special, that coffee painting, not many people do it, not many people know about it. And I said, well, not many research about it out there. And of course, I mean, there is this discussion around AI and art, and, and how that's going to take away the human element from art and those kind of discussions. So um, I know that you sent me a video. Would you like me to play that for our audience now
Yeah.
to start that discussion and see
Yes.
what
Yes.
they
I would
feel
like
as well? So please do
that.
let us know in our comments that what you think about it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we go.
Hi. That was a clipping from Modern Times by Charlie Chaplin, and how he got sucked into the machine. And I particularly wanted to show this because today we are getting sucked into the IT world, into the, and slowly maybe the AI world. We will get sucked into it. And it has been threatening us, first the machine, then the computers, and then so many advances of science and technology, which has its pros and cons. But today we are in a world where some of those effects we cannot revert, and we are facing the consequence of that, and we don't know how to come out of it. And I I know you all know about the climate change, and the more threatening thing that is frightening everyone is whether AI generated art will spoil creativity. Now, creativity is the basic thing in humanity. If creativity goes, if people get demotivated and get threatened by AI and stop being creative, I think that will be another disaster for all of us. So I have been thinking about this. And if AI generated images can be used as tools by artists, where they use their own concept, own imagination, own skills, but just use it as a tool, then maybe a different level of art can be thought about or can be created. But if people depend totally on AI generated art, it depends on what the viewer wants and what motivates an artist to do his or her work. So if AI takes over, then that will be a very sad situation. But just like I think of things like calculator, computer, these have caused people to lose their jobs and get threatened by, especially people who do not know how to use them, get threatened by them. But at the same time, it has made other people think how it can be used gainfully and produce something more creative. So it is my hope that AI generated art will be used as a tool by artists to be more creative.
Indeed, indeed. I think that this is, we are feeling threatened at the moment because, of course, we can't see the future, but
Mhm.
maybe we will make better use of AI for the future as well. So, like in our university, have started this conversation around ChatGPT and how ChatGPT can create texts. So, therefore, a creative writer or somebody who we want to write things, if the AI writes it for them, then they're not learning, so it's kind of a way how we can interact with technology, how we build our relation with the technology. I think that we have to think about more on these. But
Yeah.
creativity comes from us, isn't it? Like you, so it was your pathway where you started with your alpona or with your bridal, the makeups and stuff, and then from there to coffee to then digital art. So it's a mix, and it would have not been possible without you critically thinking about it. So critical thinking is at the heart of creativity as well, I think.
And I today we did not show any of my other works which are done with traditional medium. So I started working in traditional medium like acrylic, oil, watercolor, charcoal back in 2004. And then I switched to coffee in 2012. So I have been using other medium, and one has to learn. So one has to learn from. Hello, Partho. Here is Partho, who is also a person painting with coffee. He is the Kolkata coffee man, and he does a lot of work with coffee. And he actually has sessions with people, talking to them. And this is something I need to mention here because Partho is here, that he invites people to talk to him. He'll sit in a cafe with them, whoever wants to share their whatever they want to share with him, and he doesn't reply to anything, doesn't ask any question. He goes on doing his coffee work, doing some kind of coffee work, which at the end of the session he will gift it to the person who has been talking to him. And in the process, the person can unburden his or her heart or mind, and can overcome thoughts which have been bothering or troubling that person. So Partho does a great job, and he also sells his coffee painting and does social work with the money. Thank you, Partho, for being here. So I hope it is not going to create problem for us. And I have been doing all other kinds of medium before this, which actually taught me to uh, invent methods where I could correct myself, where I could think differently and play around with my work. You start with a blank canvas, and as an artist, I would sit in front of the canvas thinking what I want to do on the canvas. And there I think it is the expression of my thoughts that comes out on the canvas. So I don't know how AI is going to do that. It is, after all, the expression of the artist on the canvas or with the medium, whatever medium the artist is using to create. And skills, every artist has to learn skills or maybe gifted with certain skills. And there is no limitation to what the artist can do. There is no limitation. There is nothing hard and fast about art, that you have to do this and this is bad art, this is good art. I don't believe in that.
Yes, that's very rightly said, actually. And that's why we were having this discussion, and I was saying, well, you know what? We are talking about AI here, but AI is actually created by humans, so it's not something alien that has actually invaded our art, but it's actually coming out of the minds. And if you look at AI is also a creative, innovative kind of thing, isn't it? So it's an invention. So people have thought about it, maybe from a different background, which is computer science, but actually it's the creative thought that has led to that innovation. So I don't think that any form of creative ideas or any kind of creative technical innovations can actually threaten us if we as humans remain human and in our expressions and in our ways of life and all of that. So it cannot go anywhere bad unless we try to make it bad or try to make something bad with it.
That is what history has shown us, that people have been using it in the wrong way. But that
Mm,
is, I think, what has happened before, and you cannot stop
yes.
it from happening.
No.
But one thing about AI generated art is something I have been thinking about is people who do not have the artistic skills, yet they want to express themselves. there AI could be handy. There they could use it as a tool to do something.
Yes, definitely. I think that's it's. I mean, we can go on for ages, isn't it? So it's nearly an hour, but I think that the discussion that we had, it's going to actually inform. Of course, we have here Sangeet Foundation, but the founder of Sangeet Foundation, Jayant Ray, and he is doing his PhD on creative arts and media. So how he can use, or people in the future can use creative arts and media to develop community resilience so that communities can work together. And I think that that's one of the interesting research that, of course, he's been working on. And the talks that happened today is going to definitely put some inputs into his work as well, I believe, and to many others, who are creative practitioners, because lots of them I know are feeling threatened and they're thinking, well, I spend so much of time practicing doing it, and now here is a machine where you give inputs and it's producing something for everyone. So it's, yeah, I can see where that hurts. So it will be very similar to us as well, because we have to write articles which we produce for a year, and then here comes the AI which produces it for a day maybe. But I think that it's still the creative inputs. You can actually identify where it's computer generated and where it is human generated. Creative works always comes, always shows that, demonstrates that it's able to. So
For
we have got,
instance, so far, I don't think AI could put any bridal chandan on any face. That is not
no,
yet done.
that's not possible. That's the thing. So it's that thing, like it's only us who can think beyond machines, and I believe because we have created machines.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for your time
Thank
and
you,
for all the
Indrani. It was my
interesting
pleasure.
discussion. Yeah,
Thank
I mean, we will try and see that if we can do some, because we were thinking about it, that especially in Europe, and it is a thing during the winter months, because it is very dark. People tend to feel much more depressed, or there is this sad syndrome that happens quite a lot. So we were thinking that if we can offer some workshops during, particularly during winter months, and with the geriatric population, so especially with the elderly population, to make them feel
Yes, yes.
better.
Yeah,
So we'll definitely get connected with you on that and see
yeah.
how we can take that forward.
Yes.
But
You
thank you
can
very much
always
for your
approach me.
time.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I mean, you brought this on the surface, and I think that ever since then, people have taken interest in coffee painting, and in a way, they're experimenting with it. So, you have been the pioneer in the field in that respect. So, yeah, definitely. This year we are also doing, it's for you, but also if you want to connect with us online, you can. But we have also put together a conference, because this is the fourth year actually running for Mana Utsav. And what we wanted to do, because Mana Utsav started during the pandemic, but it had a
Yes, yes.
academic interest.
Hmm.
And the academic interest was very much like, okay, how can we use creative media, or creative medium or media, to actually talk about resilience and all of that. So this year we have brought together different academics and community members and different organization founders together to then do a conference, which is on the 20th of September, and it's happening at the university, De Montfort University, in the Clefin building. It's called Intersections Between Migration, Media, and Lived Experiences and the Digital Future. The conversation that we are starting is that, like, we have seen museums as standing and keeping artifacts and all of that, but we are trying to ask this question, that do museums have got a greater role to play? So is the museum going to be the future? What does the future of museum look like, and without the community, of course, the museums will be very empty, because it's the community who actually visits the museum. So altogether we are trying to explore it, and we are trying to see, okay, there are different communities who move around the globe, and of course they bring with them different creative interests, so how we can preserve them, so future generations can learn from it as well. So we are doing this, and those of you who are watching, if you're interested, please do sign up. So it's on the Eventbrite. You can sign it up, and of course, if you want to join or contribute in some form to Manavut Surf, please also get in touch. So that's it for today. And I'll take it back. And of course, thank you very much again to
Thank you,
Himashani.
Indrani.
And
Thank you.
we look forward to working with you again.
Thank you.